Hi everybody, I want to tell you half a story. It's about me working on a camp. I needed a hat, so I went down to the local store and I looked around. There wasn't any hats, but they brought out one and it was the last hat in the store. So I'm going to put it on and it really looks like I'm supporting Donald Trump, but was really to keep the sun out of my eyes. My cousin, who invited guests over for dinner, showed up around 10 o'clock. And at a distance, they saw my red hat, and they had red hats on too. Ran over to greet me, and as we talked, we realized we really had opposite political opinions. Both of us were a little bit uncomfortable. I then went back to work. He went over to visit with my cousin, and I realized that I'm going to have a dinner, and I need to be a good host. They are guests in the property, and I gotta make them feel welcome. So on my way home, I started to think about how we have become divided in the country. And when I bring this up to some people, they say we've always been divided. And I like to take issue with that. There are people that are in power that seem to want to divide us. And so I wanted to talk about the divisions in the United States and where do they come from. So I'd like to talk about two institutions. I have them right here. We have Democrats and we have Republicans. These are political parties. And the word party I don't really like, so I like to call them unions. The idea is that they can get funding for candidates that have the same ideology. That way they can get those candidates to be elected because they're not operating by themselves, they're operating in a group. Same as an auto union or same as an electrical union. These two parties have been around for a long time. They haven't been the only parties in the United States. They also have labels that are attached to them. The first label is Liberal Democrat, and the second label is Conservative Republican. These two words have specific definitions, and I wanted to make sure that you understood what those definitions are. Liberal has one meaning where the amount that is given is larger, and the design is often unique and untested and new. Conservative has been proven over time and its portion is smaller. So I'd like to show you the differences between ice cream that is conservative and ice cream that is liberal. So I want to show you ice cream, and here is a conservative portion of ice cream. This is a liberal portion of ice cream. Now, when you're 16 and a half, you want to order the liberal portion because the conservative portion really isn't enough to satisfy. But when you're my age, I want the conservative portion because I can't eat that. I would die. So one of the metaphors with all that is, as we get older, our philosophies of life change. And so we either tend to turn from liberal to conservative or conservative to liberal. It also depends on how much money you're making, how much money you want to save, how much things cost. You start to think a little bit different in philosophy. But I am going to now show you the definition of liberal and conservative that's from the dictionary. So the attributes of conservatism, conservative person, is orthodox. This could be related to religion. It could be related to the way you live that's the same as your parents, and so you don't want to really make any changes to your life. Timid. These are all synonyms of conservative. Old-fashioned. Unadventurous. Cautious. Unchanging. So these are the attributes of a conservative thinking. Liberal, we have unorthodox, really just the opposite, right? We have open-minded. We have broad-minded, very similar. Radical and progressive. Now, really, these descriptions are about the attitude of the people. And I'd like to say a orthodox conservative, I can take this word and put it over here and make it an orthodox Democrat. That'd be a Democrat that's parents raised Democrat, and they're going to operate as a Democrat, and they're not going to change anything. So the word actually can be transferred over. I'm going to take open-minded, and I have several Republican friends, and I consider them open-minded when I'm having a conversation. And so as these things go back and forth, you realize they're really about individuals, not about all of them. And so when one sticks liberal Democrat is the only Democrat that can be around, or conservative Republicans, the only Republican around, you created two groups. And those two groups have both negative connotations attached to those words. So those people that want to separate us, and you'll recognize them now, when they use the language of trying to make these two words, conservative and liberal, in a negative connotation, I can take this word, crooked, and I can stick it on either one of these. Crooked liberal Democrat, crooked conservative Republican. I can take this one, snowflake liberal Democrat, snowflake conservative, lame. Whenever you hear this language out of a leader, they're attempting to separate you from fellow Americans. This is the reason why I'm here. So what I want to do is I want to take my conservative and liberal, and I'm going to say they're kind of nonsense words that don't mean a whole lot. So I'm going to throw them away. So I want to talk to you a little bit about two philosophies, liberalism and conservatism. Conservatism is a little bit newer than liberalism, and they both have different philosophies. And so the question is, which was the founding fathers? Were they operating off of liberalism or conservatism? And that's for you to think about for a little bit, but you can look at this and decide on whether they were open-minded, broad-minded, progressive, and radical, or were they unadventurous, old-fashioned, timid, and cautious? Which were the founding fathers? Liberalism, defined by the dictionary and encyclopedias, they generally support free markets, free trade, limited government, individual rights, capitalism, democracy, secularism, gender equality, racial equality, internationalism, free speech, freedom of the press, and freedom of religion. Conservatism is a political and social philosophy promoting traditional social institutions in the context of culture and civilization. They support tradition, heredity, and authority as established in respective cultures, as well as property rights. Adherents to conservatism often oppose modernism and seek to return to the way things were. Now, I'm going to read to you a quote from a British conservative, Quintin Hogg. And I read this twice before I had any idea of what he was saying. I may have to read this 3 times, or you might want to just back up and hear it again. Conservatism is not so much a philosophy as an attitude, a constant force performing a timeless function in the development of a free society, and corresponding to a deep and permanent requirement of human nature itself. Now, I read it twice because it doesn't really mean very much. And so I'm thinking that everybody has a constant force, and that we all want to develop a free society. And so I still am looking for what I think of when somebody says they're a conservative and they operate over conservatism. what it is they're trying to do. And in my opinion, what they're trying to do is what they did when they were a child and saw what their parents did. And so they want to keep everything the same. What I think conservatism really is that people get older and they like the past that they lived in and they want to keep it. Some examples of that are, you'll hear some people who are older talking about the music of younger people and that they don't understand the music, or they think the music isn't good. That is an example of conservative views. The other one is that they look at their life, their property, and they want it to be the way it's supposed to be. Whatever rules they have, and if something changes that makes it new or different, they are uncomfortable with that. In my opinion, that's really what conservatism and a conservative person is. Somebody who really just wants to stay in their past. So to finish the story, my dinner with my guest contained no political conversation at all. And as we were talking, we talked about family, childhood, what we did for make a living, and the conversation grew our friendship together. Regardless of our political ideology, we both realized that we are both Americans. We both care about the same thing, and we both wish each other a happy life. And so what I am concerned about in this country is, who is it that's trying to separate us? Is it our leaders? Is it our language? Is it philosophies that have become very divided? Because I think that the idea behind the Founding Fathers was to have us united, not divided. Thank you.